Good morning. Morning to the citizens and residents of Dominica, and of course the many volunteers and regional and international agencies present on island assisting us in our efforts post Hurricane Maria. Let me also recognize our friends who are here from the various agencies and who will present to the country updates on some of the things that we've been doing. But also say that progress is being made one day at a time. As we all know, it's a long journey back. But there are a number of things which the government is putting in place to respond to Hurricane Maria. I will address the nation on Friday evening at 7 p.m. where I will articulate a 12-point economic recovery plan for the country, at least in the short term and immediate. I had a very constructive meeting with Ross University, the president of Ross University, and senior management, and they have given us a firm commitment to remain in Dominica. As you know, Ross has been in Dominica since 1978. So Ross came in Dominica just prior to our independence, so they have been part of Dominica's political independence for our entire political sovereign statehood. And of course we're working with them to seek to get Ross to recommence classes as early as January 2018. I will be meeting with property owners by this weekend, those who provide accommodation to faculty and students and staff at Ross University, to speak to them and to find out how can we work together to ensure that those properties that were impacted by Maria, we can work together to get them operational the soonest. And I'm setting very early, mid-November, to have all properties in the Portsmouth area which provide services to us to be properly functional, because that is going to be very important in the consideration for the recommencement of classes at Ross University in January. I've also met with private sector entities, both as groups and also as individuals, speaking to them on what are their plans for recommencement of business, reconstruction of the businesses. So that is work in progress. We shall make certain commitments in terms of concessions and areas that we can work with them to ensure the speedy reopening and also the speedy reconstruction of the facilities. And some of the things will include concessions. It will also include the possibility of providing land to certain private sector entities to place their investments in a more secure location. Also, we continue to be in discussions with the World Bank. The World Bank is a major partner and will be a major partner in our reconstruction. They have committed some $65 million US so far. We're negotiating to see how close we can take it to 100, if not beyond that. And I will be meeting with them very soon to continue the negotiations with the World Bank. As you know, the government, we paid salaries for the month of September, which is an extraordinary effort on the part of the government. And I have also ensured as Minister of Finance that we keep to our legal obligations in terms of interest payments and loans for the month of September. Obviously, we will need to have further discussions with our creditors and to see where we are and how we treat with those matters in the next months and years going forward. Roads are being cleared. We have access to literally every part of the country now. At least we can drive to every part of the country. There's still lots of landslides to clear. There's still lots of debris to clear. Thousands of tons of debris to clear. We have a challenge on country with the adequate number of heavy equipment we have on island operators. So what we have done, the government has been in negotiations and discussions with operators from the region, and I'm hoping by mid next week we will have a massive fleet of heavy equipment on island to assist with the cleanup. And the intention and the strategy of the government is to is to clean from Roseau going out. So there'll be a redeployment of the existing assets in the country into the city and take from the city and go out. Another strategic point is to take from Ross University and go out into the out districts. From Douglas Charles and go out in the other districts. So we'll be redeploying the heavy equipment operators to address the strategic decision that the government has put in place. Because our main intention now is to get commercial activity taking place in the country. I have given the port instructions to put all systems in place to have the ferry terminal functional, so we do not have the persons using the ferry to be at the containerized ports, because it's a challenge there. So we need to get the ferry terminal functional before the end of this week. Douglas Charles will make an announcement on the commercial services at Douglas Charles, so we'll be informing all of the airline companies and airline agents on the opening of Douglas Charles for commercial flights, and we'll be doing the repairs to the Canefield and to bring more order at Canefield. We have deployed and we're deploying additional police personnel, utilizing the presence of the regional forces here to all of the ports, including Ansdeme, including Portsmouth, including Douglas Charles, including the ferry terminal, including the Woodbridge Bay, and also customs, so that we bring some order and better functioning of all of our legal and formal ports. My message to all those who are bringing in supplies from Guadeloupe and Martinique and other islands and from small boats, please utilize the official ports. Dropping off things on the seashore, you may find yourself in some difficulties, because the rule of law is still in effect. Not because we have hurricane, but the rule of law is in effect, and we have every responsibility to protect the state. I would urge residents to continue, and citizens, to continue to respect the curfew. We are still not taking this lightly. We have to ensure we respect the curfew. You have no business being out. Stay in. And we will be assessing the issue regarding the state of emergency this week, and also the curfew, because the intention is to end the curfew in some parts of the country, because we have been able to stabilize the situation in large measure. So the idea is to maybe have it reduced to certain localities rather than the entire country. But that advice will be given by the Chief of Police sometime today, who the Minister of National Security and the Attorney General are in discussions with the Chief of Police and the security advisors on this matter. One of the things we'll be implementing and we'll announce to the country in the next hours is to have the city of Roseau a pedestrian city for the time being. And the government will contract minibuses, and we shall locate minibuses down by the Crazy Coconuts at the gas station area, and also have minibuses down at the auto trade area. So you will park and ride. You will park your vehicles there. We will have buses running constantly. They will be properly marked, so you will know the buses, so you can jump on this bus. It will be free of charge. The government will pay for it, so that we minimize the number of people coming to the city. There are just too many people coming to the city. Emergency people can't get through. People who are here to assist us cannot get through. It is taking people who come to help us from Canefield Airport 3 hours to get to the financial center. And that cannot happen, and it's time sensitive, because they have to catch the flight back before 4 o'clock. And we cannot get supplies to the communities because there's just too much traffic jam. And the telecommunication services companies and also Dominica cannot get through with the heavy equipment and the personnel. So let us understand, if we want things to move much faster than they're currently moving, we all have to cooperate. And one of the best ways you can cooperate with us is by respecting the traffic situation. You have no business in town, do not come to town. Okay, and if you have business to come in town, we shall provide you with a ride free of charge. So you jump on the bus and you get into the city and you walk from one point to the other. So this is what we'll be doing, and I believe by today, tomorrow, we'll publish this So everyone in the country will have access to that information and be properly informed of how we're going to do this. And my appeal to all of us is that please let us cooperate. You know, save yourself some money, because you know you're driving and you're utilizing your fuel. At this time, we need to save every dollar that we have. And driving around town, you know, your tire may get burst with some loose nails on the streets and so forth. Where you can get it fixed, and where you gonna get money to pay for $400 for $400 tire? So park your vehicle down Old Trade, down by industrial estate, and we'll give you a free ride into town and a free ride out of town. And you can't get anything better than that, and so on. So let's appreciate that. We move in with telecommunications, and I really want to thank Flo and Digicel, who both be doing a fantastic job in pushing the envelope and to ensuring that as many communities as possible in the quickest possible time can have access to their telephones and so forth. And I was very happy to have received text messages and WhatsApp messages and BBM from my own constituency, the furthest constituency enough, from Penville. So you can imagine the pace at which these telecommunications companies are moving with providing telecommunication services. And we understand that's an important human comfort, that people can communicate with friends, both within the country and also out of the country. And that will help with minimizing the anxieties which all of us are suffering from as a result of this disaster. Our friends here who've been very, very helpful, from OCHA to USAID to World Food Program to all of you. I don't want to leave out names, but you will speak later. Really, you've been fantastic in helping us and map. We've been mapping. I've been seeing the reports at the end of the day, where we have delivered supplies, how much we've delivered, and so forth. So things are improving. There are more volunteers popping up, and as the days go by, you know, people have their homes much more settled, and their minds are much more settled, and they're coming forward to volunteer, to assist, because it is not an easy operation with the supplies. You have to get them from the port, you take them to the centers in the respective communities. You have to try to package them, and to deliver packages to 500 homes in one village is not an easy task. So we have to appreciate that there will always be inherent challenges to this. But as the days go by, I get the sense from meeting people in the communities, speaking to the authorities responsible for the delivery of supplies, that there's an improvement. What we have done is that we have set up hotlines. So if you are in any village or any community or any home or any individual or any organization or institution, you have not received supplies or adequate supplies, WhatsApp this number, text this number, they send information to those who are responsible for the delivery of supplies and other issues, and we assure you we'll get to your home, we'll get to your institution, we'll get to your family, and we'll get to your village once we have the information and so forth. We have supplies. We also, the government itself is also buying supplies, purchasing supplies from some suppliers in Barbados. A major shipment is coming in this afternoon at 12:30. So we'll continue to ensure that the country has adequate supplies to feed the people. Next week, we're gonna ensure that the farmers get back to the fields, and I will speak to that in my address on Friday. We have to go back. We have to plant cucumbers and tomatoes and lettuce and cabbage and pink beans and red beans and green beans. These things go very quickly, and you can harvest in a matter of a couple of weeks and so forth. So we ensure that we have adequate local supplies. There are lots of dashing in the country. The dashing survive. This is why it's important to plant root tubers, because they can survive. You know, I will be harvesting a little bit with a potato patch I have myself. You know, so what we're doing is that we're buying some of this in the communities, we're cleaning it up, and we're also delivering to families and so forth. So there are families who are eating dashing, and the families who are eating yams, and the families who are eating sweet potatoes during the course of these days and so forth. And we'll try to get some into the city, because I know in the city, in the urban areas, we love our ground provisions and so forth, especially when it comes from the countryside. So we'll ensure that the city gets some. So we'll be buying this, and the Ministry of Agriculture is trying to ascertain how many pounds of this we have and from which farmers, so that we can help the farmers with some cash, so they can use that cash to start replanting and build some economic activity and build some semblance of restoration of normalcy in our country. So let's keep the faith. Let's work together as Dominicans first, because it is our task to rebuild this country. It is our task to deal with issues relating to the hurricane. We have many friends here. Many friends here who are here with a genuine heart, a genuine spirit to help us. They're sleeping under difficult circumstances like all of us. They're not here in any fancy accommodation. They're all here under trying circumstances, difficult circumstances, working in many instances harder than most of us. So we have to redouble our efforts and our commitment to this thing. This is not a time or a period for any kind of complaint. Any kind of complaint. Zero complaint. I mean, somebody WhatsApped me about the port said to them they need to bring uniforms and they cannot put uniforms. I said, darling, you know, it's either we shut down the ports or you get uniforms, because we have to bring a sense of order into the ports and to ensure that we can identify who are security officers, who are port officers, who are customs officers, who are management at the port, so we can have a sense of order and normalcy at the airports if we're to get commercial flights and to create some economic activity in the country. We have to appreciate the challenge which the government is under. We have not earned $1 since hurricane, but we have to spend. So one can appreciate the serious fiscal challenge which the government has now and will have in the next months and indeed years. So we have to ensure that we minimize the complaint. You know, if there's some alu zinc in the road, do not wait for the government to come get it. Pick it up, put it on the side of the road. You know, do whatever you can. You have a shovel, let's get going. So once we do these things and we remain positive and committed to our flag and to our nation and our people, I believe, and with the help of the international and regional communities, I believe we can overcome this tremendous challenge. So I really want to thank you, and I look forward to speaking to the nation on Friday evening, God willing. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning to all. Let me add my voice to the greetings to fellow Dominicans, members of the general public, to the teams gathered here, the agencies who are assisting. It's yet another day in our journey of recovery, and my task is just to lead you to the other half of the press briefing. And my task is easy. Let me just recognize Ambassador Vince Henderson, who is the cabinet liaison for distribution and supplies. And with him this morning is a team of heads of agencies who are assisting with the process, including PS Prevo. So what I'll do, I'll introduce Ambassador Henderson. He'll come up here and he'll introduce the rest of the team and take the rest of the session, and then we'll close. Ambassador Henderson.
Thank you very much, the Secretary of the Cabinet, Mr. Farrell, Ambassador Farrell. Pleasant good morning to all our friends who are here with us from the World Food Programme, the UN, OCHA, Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Thank you very much for being here with us today. SEDIMA, USAID, all the partners. I also want to say a special good morning to the many Dominicans and residents who are at home and Dominicans abroad. I know you are listening because you're concerned about what is happening to our homeland. This morning we'll take the opportunity to present a report and to also inform the nation of how we intend to move forward with the distribution of supplies, primarily food and water, and to a lesser extent, non-food items that we will be distributing to our people. Today, we will have the opportunity to hear from the UN OCHA as they speak to some of the data that they've collected as regards to the distribution and how that process has been going. We'll also hear from the World Food Programme on the logistics in distribution. My task is very simple. I will give an overview speak to some of the challenges that we've had so far, some of the successes, and how do we intend to move forward. And PS Prevo will speak to the government distribution system and how that has been handled so far and the future plan for moving forward. But let me begin by saying a special thank you to PS Prevo and her team, those public officers and volunteers who've been assisting, Mr. Roland Roy, who has now taken residence at the Woodbridge Bay Port, sort of directing traffic and assisting the communities with their supplies, also working very closely with the CDRU, the Caribbean Disaster Relief Unit. Sawana Fabian, who's been very, very helpful in providing support to the team. Lizra Fabian, who's been ensuring that we collect all the data and to make sure the information is transferred to the EOC, and also when we get feedback from the hotline to know exactly where the trouble spots are. That is also very important. I also wish to mention some of the younger volunteers. I'm not saying you're not young, Lizra, and also Dr. Kyra Paul, who's been assisting us. But we have a team of young people at the Woodbridge Bay Port that I just want to mention because I was really impressed with what I've seen from them the last few days. This is day 15 since Maria. And these are young people who've been with us throughout since we've started the distribution process. Kalin Juliana, Imana Baron, Devron Paquette, Carrie Henry, Andy Williams, and Sasha Dura. I want to thank them for their service. And they seem to be enjoying the task. They're learning because they're working very closely with the World Food Program team, and they're learning as they go along. I had a brief meeting with them yesterday, and I was very impressed. But since the passage of Hurricane Maria, we've been faced with tremendous challenges, and chief among them is a lack of communication. Communication in the form of telecommunications. The phone system was down for a while. We were able to get services, limited service, a few days later, but there was no telecommunications on the island. So that was challenge number one. 2, motorable access. We had no motorable access to a number of parts of the island, especially in the south, Point Michel, Soufriere, Scott's Head, and Bellevue, Chopin, Pichelin, Grand Bay, Bacatel, Stowe, Dubic. We had no motorable access to those areas. So we are facing some real challenges. In the Roseau Valley, Watton-Waven, Mont Prosper, we also had Girondel, Egliston. They were blocked. There was no way we could get a truck, a car, a pickup, anything up there. In the east, we had challenges in the east as well. So as a matter of fact, almost the entire country was shut up. We couldn't get to the Kalinago territory, Castle Bruce. We couldn't get to La Plaine, Daly's, Boetica, Montjean, Grand Fond, Rivière Syric, Petit Soufriere, Saint-Sauveur, Good Hope. We had tremendous difficulties. Fortunately, we had the support of our partners. We were provided with helicopter services from our friends, the Dutch, the Canadians, the French, the Americans, the Venezuelans were able to get helicopter services provided by them, and of course from our Caribbean brothers and sisters, Trinidad and Tobago. We were able to utilize those helicopter services to distribute food first to those areas that had no access. So we concentrated heavily on the south, from Point Michel to Scott's Head. A helicopter service, which did not go very well because there were very few places to land. We had to then resort to utilizing the French vessels to do the drop-offs by sea. On the coast as well, the west coast, we had some challenges and we utilized some other vessels. But primarily we used the airlift to areas that were totally cut off from the rest of the country, and we're able to reach them. You will see some of that later by a presentation to be made by some of the members who will be presenting today. So those challenges as well, added to them, when we started getting vehicular access, we didn't have trucks. There were very few trucks available, and therefore the pressure of trying to distribute to all of Dominica was a tremendous challenge for us, trying to reach those places when we got motorable access. We also had a challenge, some of the key individuals to assist. They themselves were so severely affected that it was difficult for them to perform the roles that were assigned to them prior to the passage of Hurricane Maria. So these were some of the challenges. What we had to resort to, and even the Secretary of the Cabinet, with instructions from the Prime Minister, had to reassign some of the permanent secretaries because some of them were they were cut off. They could not report to work. Senior officers, we had to reassign people to do the task based on the availability of personnel. And I am thankful to those who made themselves available. As soon as they were able to report to work, they started reporting to work, and some of them have been doing this up to today. So we want to thank them. But we've had several successes, and I'm happy with the responses that we've been getting from the communities. We also have had a challenge in terms of the amount of food we could get to the communities at one time. Because I want to say one more thing in terms of sourcing supplies. We had to utilize local supplies primarily to distribute to our people. We had to purchase food from the supermarkets. We had to purchase as much as possible, and we still continue to purchase today foods from the supermarkets to distribute. We were also fortunate that the Prime Minister, as Minister of Finance, had authorized the creation of a line of credit with supermarkets in Barbados, and we started receiving the shipments. Last week we got 350 tons of supplies that went to Woodbridge Bay ports and also to Portsmouth. We have distributed them accordingly in the north and the rest of the island. We've also received supplies from some of our partners at the Douglas Charles Airport, and those supplies were designated to provide from Calibishi to Marigot. We have, fortunately, and now as the days going by and things are getting better in terms of access, there's a greater sense of, I don't want to call it normalcy at this time, but there seems to be more access in telecommunications, vehicle access. Some vehicles that were locked out are now coming out. We are being able to reach more people, but initially it was a real challenge distributing the supplies, and I want people to understand that. So when you get a little sardine, some rice, and some biscuits, it's because we're trying to reach everyone. Everyone. And that is where the support of the WFP was critical. They had to assist us in being able to package food so that we could get a 2 to 3 day supply for everyone in Dominica based on the foods that we had available. So that you will hear a little more about. But moving forward, we are more hopeful. We have been able to provide as much as possible to the communities, especially where we have the more vulnerable. We have been able to reach them. We have worked very closely with our partners, and I'm grateful for the support of the USAID in distributing plastic shittings, tarpaulins, and they have been responsible for that distribution themselves. They covered the Northeast. They went as far as providing support to families to actually place the tarpaulins on their houses, to get people out of the shelters. So that we're very happy for that support. The UK worked closely with the Red Cross and distributed all the tarpaulins that they had in stock. They also worked with some of our partners to do deliveries by helicopter, and they were able to touch a number of communities. We have our own request for tarpaulins. Unfortunately, the government itself has not had tarpaulins to distribute. And I think the challenge with the tarpaulins, because almost all of us lost our roofs. You know, every time it rained, I had to still walk in a little water. It's only the other day, somebody gave me a little, as we would say in Central, a little as is you, I get a little help. So I was able to cover a piece, and now I can feel a little more comfortable. But I had my own challenges as well. But we know that it is in demand. So here's what we decided with our partners. Why don't we go to the shelters and provide tarpaulins to the people in the shelters first, so that they can get out of the shelters, so that our schools can now be available, so we can start talking about when schools are going to reopen. Obviously, if somebody is in a shelter, things are really bad. They have no downstairs to go to. They have no liquor path that was not, uncovered, and therefore we use that system of distribution. Well, we agreed on that system of distribution with our partners so that they could utilize the Red Cross and other agencies to distribute throughout the country. So I'm happy that we've seen some progress in that regard. But talking about roofing, one of the things that I admire the most, especially yesterday when I got up and I looked down in my neighborhood, several people, I don't know where they got the galvanized from, they had recovered their houses. And I'm hearing that's the same thing happening in some of the communities, like St. Joe, and I know I witnessed it in Sineku when I went there sometime last week. So we're seeing people are trying to help themselves. And this is what we're asking our people to do. Let's have a little patience. If there are concerns, please let us know. But let's not complain. Let's just try to make it better. Let's try to help ourselves, help our neighborhoods, clean the streets, do what you can, and we will get there. I am very confident that within the coming days, we will see a better sense of normalcy. And my mantra for the last few days, every time somebody asks me, how are you? I say better. Better because I've seen things getting better. More people receiving supplies. The trees start growing some leaves. You've seen a little green here and there. You get a little shower so you can refill your containers. You don't have to wait for the truck. And you just have to be grateful. And something somebody pointed out to me on Sunday when I went down some parts. Thank God, at least some places, they don't have river. So you could go in your river and wash your clothes. I remember when I used to grow up in Layu, we used to wash our clothes by the river. So a lot of people went to the river, get a little bath, take a little swim, and wash their clothes. Hang their clothes, put it on the stones to dry. And people are trying to adapt and to sort of respond to the challenge. So we have to continue doing that. In the meantime, your government will do everything that we can to get your life back to normal. You heard the Prime Minister. The commitment is there. The support is there. Our friends are responding. We just have to embrace that opportunity and rebuild so that we can get Dominica back on its feet. So, with that, I have given my bit, and it is up to our friends and the other speakers this morning to assist in giving their own presentation. Capsec, I think you have charged me with that responsibility, so I will dutifully perform. So let's just move on. I'll just call your name and you will just come and do the presentation. I would like to invite Mr. Rogerio Mobilia from the United Nations Office of Humanitarian Affairs to present some information on how we have collected data for the distribution of food, water, and NFI so far. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Quickly overview about the challenges of the international community supporting this emergency at this size. Our commitment is to make the effort that the entire international community working here on this moment, in this challenging moment, to be in coordination with the efforts from the government. And showing that we are working together in this, all agencies integrated various sectors. We just set a space where everybody is there, working different sectors, and joint and working in coordination, donors, United Nations and agencies, NGOs, in collaboration with the national authorities. So this space is available to our international community to join and share information. That's the first step we have made. We finally opened in space after the destruction of some of the premises that we couldn't find in space. We use this space here in the beginning, and now we are open to more wider space for the international community to work together on the information flow. Secondly, we have created information too since the beginning internet and communications were not strongly available to support us on the force of using the electronic system, but now it's improving and improving fast. So our information tools now is very collaborative. Several agents have been used. National authorities are contributing to that. We have produced a lot of maps, a lot of tables, and we are consolidating more and more. Our colleagues from the WP are here now, and we're going to talk later about the distribution of food, non-food items, and other issues for the community. So we're going to improve those information tools. We are working hard on this to bring more and more collaborative approach to those information tools and improve our way of promoting the situation reports. United Nations has produced a situation report about the situation, and we're going to continue informing authorities, international community, and the public about the development of the situation. We have been producing more, and more quality will come as more precise the information will come to us. In the beginning, it's really hard to bring precision. We want to attend the population in different areas, many people working together, but now we are stabilizing the flow of information, and the products will gain more quality. We will go to another level. We will ask more questions, and we'll be able to respond to those needs. We have several maps, as I already said in the beginning. We have a website open dedicated to our operation. Everything to show the transparency and how fluid we will move forward on this improvement of the quality, of the precision, of the distribution, to attend the needs of the population that's out there. We have been mobilized some of our funds mechanisms to support the efforts of the national community. Agents have mobilized their own internal funds to bring a lot of staff here to the country, mobilize initially resources to work together. We are working on the new way of working where UN agencies, NGOs, and all together talking about sector, integrating their project as much as possible. And finally, I would like to make the commitment that this international community is working to move as fast as we can, recognizing the challenge, recognize the dimension of the event, the impact, that we want to move forward from immediate response, looking to longer-term action of early recovery and development. We're going to work on sectors, camp management and shelter, food and non-food item distribution. We're improving water conditions in collaboration with national authorities, working on the education, health, early recovery and then development, without not stopping to think on terms of protection and gender issues too. We are always taking this into consideration. On the early recovery, we'll be working on our information tools to improve the quality of the maps based on the improvement of the communications. The transport network, we're going to try to map. We have been started already as roads going unblocked. We're going to try to map those spots where we have cleaned the roads, and also the improvement and reestablish of the livelihood and markets. I couldn't also mention that the Secretary General is visiting us over the next day, so this also shows the commitment of the United Nations international community to promote the action, integrate the action to this event. And I encourage all of us and others not present here, that I will not mention the name, to continue the hard work. The Dominicans are expecting this from us, and that's what we are committed to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roger Mobilia, Manager of Information Services of United Nations, Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Our next speaker will speak to Distribution Logistics, Mr. Mateo Perón, Team Leader of the World Food Programme.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by thanking the government of Dominica for the great support that we received since the first day that we arrived on the island, allowing us to operate in such a challenging moment. The World Food Programme focuses attention mainly in the logistics sector, trying his best to enhancing the distributions of food and non-food items. As per today, we are around 70 tons of food has been distributed in more than 50 locations around the island. 85,000 liters of water, if not more, because the numbers are going up by the seconds we are talking. We also are now thinking to move to, let's say, a second phase, as my colleague from OCHA said, trying to standardize our approaches and to provide a better service to the communities of the island. Our intention is to support the government of Dominica to do this work. We are not on the first line, we are here to support, again, in collaboration with our colleagues from the United Nations systems and other actors of the NGO and the civil society. The idea is now to procure a large amount of food items to be then distributed to the communities, and we will rely on the communities for the distributions, and we will also do our best to train as many community leaders as possible in order for the distributions to be smooth, equal and transparent. The items are mainly staple food for the Dominicans, rice, wheat flour, canned food, canned meat, canned fruits, vegetables, sugar, in order to cover your food needs for a month with 2,100 kilocalories per day and per person. We also have been quite active in the coordination of the military assets that have been operating in the island. Our colleagues, I will name Mark because he's right now in front of me, has been working around the clock with the military forces and other partners to make sure that these assets have been utilized as much as possible in support of the population of Dominica. We have our team, as Ambassador Henderson said, at the port, also working around the clock in order to receive all the goods that have been shipped to Dominica, package them and sending them out. Our objective is to empty the warehouse port as soon as possible because there is more relief items coming and we don't want to enter in a bottleneck. The challenges are access, have been access, now the roads are clear. We are therefore also trying to increase our transportation capacity by several solutions. These will be defined in the coming days, according also to the support of donors for these operations. We also provided the first days of this emergency telecommunication support for the humanitarian community. We set up a center here. We provide internet connections in order to be operational as quick as possible. Now, as His Excellency the Prime Minister said, and the telecommunication is stepping up very quickly, coverage is there, so this has been a great improvement for everybody. I think I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Perron. I appreciate your support. The government of Dominica's distribution system is guided by three main principles: transparency, accountability, and equity in distribution. We have done our best to stick to those principles to ensure that we reach all our people. But of course, in an equitable system, there are the vulnerable who we must provide for first, and then the general population. We continue to aspire to those three objectives. I will invite Permanent Secretary Prevo to present the government's distribution system, the past, and what is to come.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Henderson. And I would just like to join with the speakers who have come before to thank our partners, the agencies who are represented here today, and also partners who have been with us for the last 2 weeks, some of whom have now departed. The French and the Dutch, the Canadians and the US, I think, are still here. But we do want to say a special thank you to all of our partners, Venezuela, Cuba, and all the other agencies that have been assisting us in this relief distribution program. Of course, Maria has been challenging, and the response to Maria is even more challenging. And I dare say that distribution of relief is one of the most challenging tasks that we have post this disaster. But we have been doing our best, as Ambassador and as the Prime Minister has said. I would just like to continue from where our friends at the World Food Programme left off, to speak about procurement of food supplies, and also to elaborate on our distribution plan that we spoke about the last time that I was here. And I would also like to speak to some of the programs or the initiatives that we'll be launching in the next week or so, well, the next few days, to strengthen the distribution at the community level. So as the World Food Programme has said earlier, they'll be providing support to us through the procurement of basic food supplies. We have met with the World Food Programme over the last 2 days to review the food needs, food requirements for a population of 70,000 for a period of 30 days. And we've looked at what will be provided by the World Food Programme and the gaps that will need to be provided by the government of Dominica, and through the general relief or donations that we'll be receiving. So we do have at this moment the quantity of food that will be required to supply the country, the entire country, for a period of 30 days. We are working with the Ministry of Finance and the Honourable Prime Minister to determine what will be required from our end in terms of government procurement, and how this will fit in to the overall distribution plan. We are aware that this is not just the distribution of relief is probably going to be with us for the near future. We are also working, the Ministry of Trade has been assigned to have discussions with the local supermarkets to determine the availability of supply within the local supermarkets, and also what is on the way in terms of goods that will be coming into the country. We are also working with them to determine the time period within which they'll be opened. We have to be able to balance the distribution of relief with what the market is able to supply, and we do know that the urgency right now is partly due to the fact that the supermarkets have not been open. So we do have to ensure that we can provide as much coverage as possible with the distribution of relief supplies. We are also aware that we've seen some job losses, of course, and we know that livelihoods will be affected going forward. So this is one of the reasons we are here with our partners to determine a long-term solution to food security and livelihood security as well. We are working with the World Food Programme again to set up a food security and livelihood subcommittee. We will have a first meeting today, and that meeting will be attended, or we will have participation from our agencies, foreign agencies, providing support for food distribution, and also with our local partners and agencies responsible for food, including the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Social Services, and the Ministry of Planning. We hope to be able to convene an initial meeting today to plan moving forward the long-term food needs and how we can get ourselves back on the ground. In terms of distribution, the last time I was here, I indicated that the government had set up a structure for distribution of relief supplies, and that we were planning to use some of the regional warehouses, which would have been the Portsmouth packing house, the multi-purpose pack house in Portsmouth, which would service Portsmouth to Cottage, Bourne to Bents, and Thibault to Penville. I would like to report today that this structure at Portsmouth has been fully set up and is operational. So there is a regional warehouse at the multipurpose center, multipurpose pack house in Portsmouth at Longhouse. They are receiving goods through Longhouse. They've received shipments from Barbados and from other areas in the Caribbean. And the goods are being packaged there and distributed to the areas that I have mentioned. We do have public servants, a team of public servants who are staffing this particular warehouse, and they have been coordinating the distribution for the north. We received a report from them on Thursday, and I am pleased about the distribution in that area. As you are aware, we have also been receiving most of our supplies from the Woodbridge Bay port. We know that we are challenged at the port. The port has suffered significant damage, and we also have had damage at the ferry terminal. So in terms of operation at the port, I know that they have been stretched. We have a number of containers coming in. We have a number of relief supplies coming in, not just to the government. We have supplies coming in for other agencies, for other aid agencies, for local agencies who are also involved in distribution. We have personal items that are coming in. We do have the ferry terminal, which is also operating from the port, and that is operating with the challenges of the damages that we have experienced at the port. So it is a massive operation to coordinate relief supplies from the port, but we are working. I really would like to take this opportunity to thank the staff, Mr. Badwill and his staff at the port, the customs officers, the port officers who have been working, and I can tell you up to very late hours in the night, very early in the morning. They've been working for the last 14 days to receive goods, to ensure that the containers are clear, to ensure that we can move supplies into the sheds, and that we can have these supplies moved out immediately. We do not have capacity to be able to store goods on the port for a long-term period, so our efforts have been focused on getting the goods out of the port as quickly as possible to the regional warehouses and then onto the communities. To enhance our operations at the port, as Ambassador Henderson said, we have reassigned some of our staff. So we do have an operations manager at the port, Mr. Roye from the Ministry of Tourism, who has been assisting us with coordinating with all of the agencies, working with the World Food Program, working with our friends from the CDRU, who have been assisting us with managing some of the sheds, and also with the other agencies who have been receiving supplies. We've been directing them to the areas that their supplies are stored. We know that a number of supplies have come in for ADRA, for the Roman Catholic Church, and other agencies, and we are also trying to assist them in terms of the coordination on the port. As it relates to the distribution centers, and well, overall in terms of distribution, I can report that we have pretty much touched close to 100% of the communities around the island. Now, I would like to emphasize 100% of the communities may not necessarily mean 100% of the population, but we've reached almost every community in Dominica in terms of delivery of supplies. Our focus now is to be able to strengthen the delivery of supplies at the community level. So we are aware that in some communities where we may have delivered supplies, everyone may not have received supplies, and we are working on strengthening the distribution at the community level. Our friends from the World Food Program have already indicated earlier that they will assist us with training in the communities. We are going to be embarking on a series of community meetings with the field officers, the district development officers, and other public servants within the districts, also the councils, the disaster committees, and in some cases there are some communities with no village council structure, with no disaster committee structure. So there are individuals, volunteers from these communities who have come forward and said, we have put a team together in our community. We are going to be responsible for distributing supplies within our communities. And we have been working with these groups, but we would like to ensure that they have the capacity to be able to continue down the line with the distribution process. We would like to emphasize the importance of looking out for the vulnerable in the communities. So with the teams who are distributing, we need to ensure that we look out for the elderly, for the children, for the pregnant mothers, and those who are sick, those who are ill in the community. We really would like you to place some priority on the vulnerable within the community, and that of course will be part of the training that we will try to ensure is done at the community level. Another thing which is important for us is feedback, and as you've heard earlier, we have set up, the Office of Disaster Management has set up a hotline. They have indicated what the numbers are, but I can repeat for emphasis today. We do have 3 numbers for the hotline: 277-8667, 285-09 89-614-3000. We have individuals who are public servants who are staffing this hotline daily. We have been receiving a lot of feedback from the hotline, and what we've been trying to do at the end of the day, well, during the day, the hotline staff, they have provided this information to us, and the areas where we've noticed that we've gotten a lot of calls, we are working on improving distribution in those areas. So I can say, for example, we've received a number of calls from Kings Hill, and today we are working on improving the distribution strategy in the Kings Hill area, Castle Comfort, and a number of other areas that have been identified through the hotline. So the hotline is working. It's not just a number that we put out there. I am very pleased that people are actually calling the hotline to say that they've received supplies and that they are pleased and that they are satisfied and that their community has been served. So if you have received supplies, please call the hotline as well so that we can get the feedback about how the distribution is going on in the community. I also know through the hotline that individuals have been calling from overseas in the diaspora. Maybe they may be in touch with their family here who may not have access to call the hotline, but they have been calling from overseas to say, my family in this particular area has not been served. So we do appreciate the feedback that we're getting from all levels of society and also from our Dominicans in the diaspora. I would also like to add that from the public service end, that we, at the level of the Committee of Permanent Secretaries, we've been meeting regularly, and the PSCs have been assigned to reassign staff, field staff within the district to work with the community groups, work with the village councils at the community level to strengthen the distribution system. So in the next few days, the field officers from the local government, from the welfare department, some of the education officers, teachers who have been in their districts but are unable to come to Roseau to work, will also be providing support in that area, and we are looking forward to the feedback from that. I wanted also to put out some information as it relates to the port. Just from spending about 3 days on the port within the last week, just some observations in terms of consignment. Goods for relief should be consigned to the Office of Disaster Management, Ministry of Justice, Immigration and National Security, Government of Dominica. It should be clearly labeled so that we do not have any confusion with goods on the port. If you are sending goods to ADRA, it should be labeled to ADRA in care of the Catholic Church, in care of the Red Cross, and personal items should be clearly labeled to the individual that it is going to. We've had discussions with the port about ensuring that we have a shed specifically for distribution and clearance of individual items. Previously, all items came in together in the few sheds that were available, but we are working with the port and ensuring that personal items, and the Prime Minister has already said that personal items can now come in, I believe, but we would like to ensure that this is separate from the relief items so that individuals, can ensure that they receive what has come to them personally, and that what comes to the government and other aid agencies can be clearly identified by the staff on the port. So I do beg your indulgence to ensure that when the relief supplies are being shipped to Dominica, that they are clearly labeled and consigned to the government of Dominica. I would like to take this opportunity as well to thank all those who have been providing donations of relief supplies. We've received a number of containers from Barbados, from Trinidad, from Grenada, from Antigua, and from other islands in the Caribbean. I know that there is more relief in the pipeline. We are working with Sidima. We do have an aid pipeline spreadsheet that tells us what is coming in, when, and where it is coming from, so we have an idea what to expect. And we are utilizing this aid pipeline information to determine where the gaps are so that we can strengthen our own procurement system. So again, really just to wrap up and just to add to what has been said before, this is a challenging task. As Ambassador Henderson said, transportation has been a challenge, but now that a number of the roads are open, we are intensifying our efforts with ground transportation. We really would like to thank the drivers that have been working with us so far, the security, the volunteers, and I do want to thank the staff as well. Ambassador Henderson has called us a number of names, but we also have the staff at the Ministry of Planning, where we've been based for the last few days. who have been providing essential admin support, the secretary to the permanent secretary at the Ministry of Planning, and a number of other individuals who have been assisting us throughout this time. We do hope by the next briefing that we can have more updates for you, but just to say again, thank you very much, and to those who have exercised patience, we will get to you, we will get to everyone, and we also want to thank the other agencies that are filling in the gaps, ADRA, the churches, and the other service clubs and other individuals who have also been distributing relief supplies to some of these same communities. So thank you very much.
Okay, at this stage, do we have any matters, any questions, clarifications before we conclude? Okay, that's it. Okay, well, it's left for me now to thank Ambassador Henderson and PS Prevost and the team who presented to us this morning. Obviously, we have a lot of information, and I'm hoping that the general public is taking note, especially of the repeat of the hotline information and the address for shipping of supplies. I've had a lot of inquiries on that myself, and I think two people are wondering about personal packages. I think that too is now, there is a system now for personal packages, and the general public should know that. One appeal though, all of that effort is great, but we really need to appeal to the volunteers at the community level. And at this stage, I want to make a special appeal, particularly to the public officers who are assisting those persons, because they are reassigned and paid, and we really expect them to give the support required to ensure that those commodities reach the homes. All of the effort here would be totally wasted if we find gaps in the communities. So I'm appealing to all volunteers, particularly public officers who are reassigned, to ensure that the packages, the food supplies, reach the persons that they are destined for. At this stage, I just want to thank you. We'll meet again tomorrow for another briefing. Thank you very much, and thanks for your contribution and your attendance.